I'm Al McFarland. Welcome to the Conversation with Al McFarland. Today is Friday, uh, February 13th, 2026. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Fridays, we call the program the Healing Circle. We're supported by and co-sponsored by the African American Child Wellness Institute. And today we have the fun of having one of the principal leading lights at ACWI, Lisa Bryant here. Lisa, good afternoon. Welcome to the conversation. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you, Al? Thank you so much. Thank
I
you.
am doing well as well. And as always, our colleague, Dr. Oliver is here. Dr. Oliver, how you doing? Good to see you. Dr.
I'm
Williams,
good, bro. I'm good. I'm good. Good to see you, Bo.
good
I
to see
like
you.
that baseball cap, Dr. Oliver.
This is my Puerto Rican baseball cap.
Yeah.
Puerto
Yeah,
Rico is in right now, thanks to Bad
that's
Bunny.
right. That's right.
Yeah, let's talk about that over the course of this conversation. And let me say, too, first that if you are catching the show on either YouTube, the Black Press USA YouTube channel, the Insight News Minnesota YouTube channel, if you're connecting with us or Facebook or over X or LinkedIn, we want to connect with you. And we thank you for paying attention. We want you to be involved in the conversation. We're continuing a series of conversations about dementia, the impact of dementia, dementia care, caregiving and receiving care. It's a critical topic, one not talked enough about, but one experienced by too many in our community. And so our intent, our hope is that these conversations uh, uh, give us more knowledge, more confidence, and more ability to heal and remain healthy as we you know move towards understanding the impact of dementia, Alzheimer's in our lives of our loved ones. Well, we have a special guest today, and that's Deborah Jones. Deborah Jones is here, and come on in, Deborah. Let's bring Deborah on. She's a community health worker and the health education and outreach coordinator for Volunteers of America, and she serves in the department that does caregiver support and dementia services. So her passion for this work is deeply personal because she cared for a loved one with Alzheimer's. Now she shares her experience to help families understand the importance of detection, risk factors, and compassionate support. Before she stepped into community health, she spent over 30 years with the Minnesota Vikings. Her journey eventually led her to St. Catherine's University, where she earned her certificate in community health work. She also joined the Volunteers of America, the organization that once walked alongside her and her mother during their Alzheimer's journey. So today she brings that same guidance, that empathy, and encouragement to others who are navigating similar paths. She's a native of Minneapolis. Her life has been shaped by her church community, her family, the neighborhood she was raised in, and she is committed to educating, uplifting, and empowering caregivers and communities with both knowledge and hope. Deborah Jones, welcome to the Healing Circle, to the conversation with Al McFarland. How are you?
Thank you so much for the invitation to be here and to share. It's good to meet everyone who was on the line. And to our community, I just want to say thank you for receiving and hearing what we have to talk about today.
All right. Well, and our structure is informal, and we are here in the spirit of friendship and spirit of caring and love and empathy. So when the spirit moves you to say something or to take take another direction, please feel free to follow the spirit, and let's be our best selves. So
Awesome.
first of all, thank you for the work you do. Talk about what that means to be in the Caregiver Support and Dementia Services Department at Volunteers of America. Maybe take a second to say, for those who might not know it, what is Volunteers of America?
Well, Volunteers of America has been an organization since it's been in existence for 200 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in many different states, as well as Puerto Rico. And our little department, our little but strong department, has been in existence for 30 to 35 years. You may have heard of Dorothea Harris, who had the passion to start this program. She has since retired, but the need is still in the community support and educate the community about dementia. I am one that when I heard that my mother had Alzheimer's, I just had this sinking in my stomach because I know there was no cure for it, and there still isn't a cure. So the question that you have to ask yourself is, how can I help this person still have quality of life and know that they are cared for and loved, even though they're vulnerable? So I come to Volunteers of America to share my experience, as well as I've learned a lot since I've been here as well. It's one thing to be a part of the program from a caregiver, but once you join the program and you see and hear the statistics of how this disease is growing rapidly in our community, not just in our community, but across the United States. And what I've grown to understand is it's not just one person who's affected, but it's a whole family, because you absorb this person, your loved one, whether it be a community member, a church member, you absorb part of their life along with your busy life, your family life, and then you want to have a personal life where you get out and enjoy as well. So that can be nobody wants to say it can be a burden, but it can be, because it's your loved one. And you don't ever want to think of your loved one as being a burden, but all that weight you carry stress with it.
Tell me about your personal story. How did the question of Alzheimer's dementia show up in your family, and what was your family's circumstance? How did it change? What was required of you in being a caregiver? But if you don't mind, tell your story.
I don't. Yeah. I'm an open book. I don't mind sharing. I don't mind sharing this story. So, and thank you for asking.
Yes.
I was one that after my father transitioned, I went to the doctor with my mother, and I just kept noticing some things about her, and I just told the doctor. She would be fine in the doctor's office, but when we got in the car to go home, she didn't remember things. So the doctor recommended that I take her to a neurologist, and she went through a series of screenings and tests. And when the doctor told me, came back that she had Alzheimer's, that's again when that sinking feeling in my stomach came into effect, because I didn't know what to do. And I was introduced to Dorothea Harris, and I began to go to these support groups. But it affected my family in such a way that, because I was busy, I was on the road traveling and working with the Minnesota Vikings. It was a very busy occupation that I was in. I planned events, we had events, and yeah, that was a story all in itself. But I grew as the NFL grew, as the organization grew. And I started in PR, and I worked my way up into events, and then eventually coordinator of the Legends program, whom we typically know as alumni. So that had a structure all of itself. And I remember feeling wherever I was, I didn't feel comfortable. And what I mean by that, when I was at work, I felt like I should have been with my mother. When I was with my mother, I knew there were things at work. And then I tried to step back and have a life of my own. I'm very active in my church and have responsibilities there. And then, your life begins to feel crowded because you're pulled in so many different directions. I'm very grateful that my two older brothers, whenever I talked to them and asked them to help, they would stop what they were doing to help. I had enrolled my mother actually into a day facility so she could go to someplace, and I knew that she had someone else's eyes on her and some help. And my brothers were very instrumental in taking her back and forth. So our family structure was one that we supported one another. I'm very fortunate that I have first cousins as well. If I called them, they were willing to step in where they could step into. So that part for me wasn't wasn't a bad situation, but it was just being aware that there are so many pitfalls that can happen if you're not communicating openly. You got to communicate with family members, and don't let barriers come in between you all as you are caring for your loved one.
How big a challenge is it? Well, first of all, let me ask you, you said in your notes that you were a native of Minneapolis. Which Jones family are you from? Who are your people?
My husband is Clarence Jones, who is very active in the community. He is the director of Human, and so he's very active too.
Everybody knows Clarence Jones. Everybody loves Clarence Jones.
I know I do. Yes, and he is very passionate about community. I never met anybody before him that really had that deep care outside of my church for community, and he cares, differently than what I was grew up to know about. But yes, that's who I am married to, and he's actually the one who introduced me to Dorothea. So I had a support system, and not even knowing that we were going to come into this disease.
And so who is your mom's family? What's your mom and your dad? What's that family tree look like?
Oh, my mother, her name Ernestine Pruitt. She was an educator and worked at Field Elementary School and Hale Elementary School, and then there was another one. So she was in the community teaching early education for quite some time. And my father, he was a laborer, and he worked at a warehouse by the name of Our Own Hardware. And, he moved they both met each other here. They didn't know each other before they moved here. And they lived in the Rondo community. They met, married over there, and then moved over into South Minneapolis. During, there was a lot of redlining, and they had all those challenges going on as well. We moved over South Minneapolis, and that's where they settled.
And so where did they come here from? What was
Oh, my mother came from Oklahoma. She came here to go to school. Her and her sister, we had her uncle lived here, and they moved here she moved here to go to school, live with them, and to go to school. And my father, after he was in the service, and I just so vividly remember him talking about the Tuskegee Airmen, because he was in the Air Force, and he remembered that struggle, and he would talk about it every now and then. But he moved here with his cousin, to live with his cousin. They both moved here to have a better life. And, they didn't have the fancy restaurants like we do. So they met in homes, and they actually met at a friend's home that invited other African Americans in to have Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinner, for socialization. And that's where they met, and they got married after that.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. I love asking people to tell their personal stories. The idea is that all of us really are vessels that the ones who preceded us poured into us. And I think we move with a sense of obligation and a sense of gratitude for all the sacrifices and all of the high expectations that our ancestors held and still hold for us. I happen to believe that all those people that have gone are still around, and they're still guiding us and directing us and giving us encouragement. And so I look for that, but I also recognize that they are in me. What I am as a composite is a repository of their genes, right? And their having lived. So it gives me a sense of never being alone, of being connected. And I think that what we're talking about now, the experience that many of us have with Alzheimer's and dementia, is one of the things that brings a massive challenge both to the individual and to the family and to the community. Because in some cases, Alzheimer's and dementia means that people will wander off, right, and need extra attention, or just can't remember, as I'm learning through these shows, Lisa, can't remember what they said 2 minutes ago or 5 minutes ago. The short term is gone, and others have vivid memories from way back when, but not of what happened just now. So to have this conversation is so important and so timely, and to know that you are working in the field that you're working in to bring that knowledge to our community is a blessing as well. So thank you.
And Brother Al, if I could just say this to you, that there's a big difference between early aging and aging. We do forget. That's a part of just growing older. Sometimes we do. We there's some natural loss of memory, but there's a vast difference between that and dementia, especially Alzheimer's, because Alzheimer's is not a natural way for us to be. Alzheimer's is where we remember we cannot function on a daily basis by ourselves. We need help and we need an aid. But to forget, that's just aging. So it's aging versus dementia. And I like to ask, when somebody tells me they have dementia, I like to ask, what kind do you have? Because we like to sit back and self-diagnose ourselves. And sometimes it may not be dementia. Sometimes it may be a lack of hydration. It may be a urinary tract infection. It may be an effect from some medication. There are other things that slow down that memory. So it's very, very important to go through that process and to have a neurologist check you out. It's one thing to go and have that 3-minute study, and we do that 3-minute study of a mini cognition test. That's one of the things that I do in the community. But it's a whole nother process to have a neurologist take you through the steps and of diagnosing a dementia.
Lisa, I'm going to bring Dr. B in a second. She's in the studio. But before we bring her in, why don't you give details about the event coming up? It's an important event that we are bringing to the community. Share that if you would.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for giving me the chance to share. And also, after I speak, I'd like to ask Deborah a question.
Sure.
But the African American Child Wellness Institute is collaborating with the Alzheimer's Association, the Minnesota and North Dakota chapter, to host an event rooted in care, dementia, caring, and caregivers support. I forgot the title, but it's going to be hosted next Saturday, February 21st, from 9 to 3 at North Point. And the address is 12, or actually, let's do this. It's 1256 Penn Avenue North. And it's going to be on the 5th floor in the conference rooms there. We have 3 keynote speakers. Yes, all 3. Nasise from the Alzheimer's Association. We have Robin Frazier from the University of Minnesota's Alter program. And also, we have Manka and Kimbe. And she is going to speak about the project she launched, looking at dementia and education and its impact on our immigrant communities. I think it's going to be a great conference, a great opportunity for our community to learn and understand about the disease, and also to take a look at the impact that it is having on the African American and African immigrant communities. So I look forward to having this conference take place.
All right, Dr. B is here. Dr. B, how you doing, my friend? As our leader, Dr. Bravada Garrett Akinsanya. Dr. B, you're on mute. Unmute if you would.
Wow.
Here we go. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm just delighted to be here and to see Sister Deborah up here telling the truth. Understand she does no matter where she is. So thank you so much for doing that and for being here with us today. I'm just tickled pink that we have this opportunity to talk about dementia, Alzheimer's, and and what's normal aging and what isn't quote unquote normal aging. So we have a lot of education to do in our community, and I'm just grateful to be here.
Mhm.
And
And
Al, may I ask
yeah, please.
Deborah a question? Deborah, the area that you focus on or do work in is the culturally responsive caregiver support. Can I ask what that means, culturally responsive caregiver support, and maybe how it differs from just, let's say, traditional or regular caregiver support?
Well, I thank you. That's a very valid question. I appreciate you asking that, because culture, we all have a culture. Sometimes we have culture within our own families where we believe certain things, and other ethnicities, they have their cultures. There are some cultures that you have to go through the man of the house to even go to the doctor and have those conversations. There are cultures within different ethnicities. And I was very appreciative of Ms. Dorothea with this group, because it really focused on African Americans. And African Americans are the highest, let me say it this way, we have the highest potential to have Alzheimer's than other ethnicities. In we're 19%. I was reading just a survey early this morning where we are 19%, Hispanics are 14% likely to have Alzheimer's for those over the age 65 than whites that are 10%. And there are 70 million people right now that are estimated who are living with Alzheimer's. So it's growing, and we need to be able to talk to one another the way that we talk to one another and understand one another, advocate for one another. And that's why, for me, being African American and being in this business, so I can help somebody else. Because sometimes when we go to the doctor doesn't talk the same way we do. So how can we go to that doctor and get what we need, get the not only the information, but the medication. Now, when I went to the doctor with my mother, he wanted to put her into a study. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that, because I read all of the effects of the disease or the medications. No, that's not for my mother. I'm sorry. And I know that we need to come to the table and participate in some studies, but I just couldn't put my mother through that. So it's important that we support one another, that we talk to one another in the way that African Americans relate without even going into depth. Because we can give a look, we can give a head nod, and we understand what we mean by that. When you go to the doctor, it's a totally different thing. You can't communicate that way.
And can I ask, Deborah, what are some of the services that your organization offers?
Oh, we have a wide range.
You and I talked about this during our little meeting.
Yes, we did. Now, online, we have spiritual health, we have brain health. So the spiritual health, we're encouraging each other through scripture, through the Bible. And anyone can join that. Through brain health, as well as for our caregivers, as well as those who have the disease. We're teaching about and educating about the disease itself. We have a resource and community connection. All of these are online that I'm mentioning. You can log in, and we're talking about what's available in the community, whether it's a food shelf, whether it's low cost medical facilities, and even just what's going on in the community. And we also have Ask a Nurse. Ask a Nurse takes place at the YMCA. And we just have questions for nurses. And the nurse just centers her presentation around the questions that the community is bringing. Last week or the last month, we talked about hoarding. And how can we break that habit of just keeping things that we don't need? Because there's a mental piece that's connected with that. So it was fabulous. We had great conversation, and yeah, she brings a lot of different things to us. Talk about medications and how they affect our body. And even as we eliminate, what should that look like so we know that what's going on inside of us is even healthy. So
You say
we had
eliminate, Deborah? You said eliminate?
eliminate. Uh-huh.
What did you mean by that?
Go to the bathroom, what comes out.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's a
We should be
fancy
looking. We should be looking to see what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have another question for you, and this, I don't know if you have hit on it yet, but this is, I think you kind of touched on it a moment ago when you said we have that wink, that look, the
Side eye.
that's a side eye, those parts of our communication style that are often misinterpreted by other groups. And my question is, do you think that changes over time as people become more and more impacted by dementia? Does that change their ability to notice those winks, those sides, that side eye, that, the little nonverbals?
I think in some cases it does. I remember unconsciously, I was at my mother's apartment at this time. She was in the living room and I was at the sink washing dishes. And I heard her conversation with someone and I began to tell her words to say. It was totally unconscious until I stopped and just kind of had that aha moment. I was filling in for her and probably was doing it for a long time, but just unaware. So I think that language is something for some. It's not, Alzheimer's is one of the diseases that it doesn't affect everyone the same way.
That's right.
So communication, I know for a fact it does affect them, but everyone is different.
So can I just jump in with one more thing? One of my first jobs before I became a psychologist was to work for what we call nursing homes in Texas. And so I would be in the nursing home seeing mostly African American clients and some white clients or patients in the nursing home. And I noticed one thing that stood out for me is times, especially back then, when there was dim.
Is she frozen for anybody else?
Can y'all hear
Yes.
me?
Yeah, we hear you. Yeah.
You broke up.
Yeah, I do freeze sometimes. But I was wanting to ask you, do you see that people still carry those psychological images with them into not just adulthood, but into geriatrics? People treated them a certain way in the 20s or the 30s. Do you see that in groups of people who have been I guess victims of racism?
So because you were going in and out, I didn't hear all of your question, but I'm going to answer it this way. And if I'm going off course, please let me know. I can say that as my mother was in the care facility, because she ended up in a care facility, she forgot how to walk. And she began to talk about from her childhood the racism that she did feel. And she kept feeling that they did not want her in that facility that she was in.
Yeah.
And so I realized where that was coming from, and I would just talk to her about it. But I would also go by there and check, because everything that they say is not wrong. But I would often go by the care facility, and I had my family stop by because I wanted them to know we're showing up for my mother, and we're going to check on the care that she's getting. Now, my challenge at the second facility that she was in, it was during the pandemic where everything was closed down. So there was a period of time that it was very, very stressful, but they opened things up by sitting with them with iPads, and I got to talk to her, I got to look at her, I got to see her. But that's a part of her care that still I feel a little haunted by it because I could not during the pandemic be there as much as I wanted. Mhm. I'm
And
sorry,
I
she's-
think it's good, Deborah. I thought it was also good that you were able to make a connection not only with her, but check the environment because, on the one hand, your mother had these lifelong experiences, and let's say that the good news might be that the organization was providing the right type of service. That being said, there's also a possibility that they weren't doing everything that they could have done, and you were the person that was the go-between because you knew her reality, but you also know sometimes that the places that you go to are not responding the way that they need to. So I think it was great that you did what you did with her and for her.
I thank you for that. And yet, it was during those support groups that I learned that information because I had no
Yeah,
experience with that before. So, support groups, there were many times I would just sit there and I wouldn't say anything. But I
yeah,
listened to those women who imparted some very good information. And I think that that's what made my journey
yeah,
somewhat the best that it could be. You
yeah,
know, it's I also refer to a journey as you have many many mini grieving sessions because you begin
yeah,
to see this person leave and those conversations that you wanted to have with them, they can no longer hold that information or conversate with you. So you just
right.
have to love them where they are, meet them where
That's
they
right.
are, and then let you have to let that be there.
Yeah. I used to talk to my mother every day. And then I got to a point where I couldn't talk to her at all. But I had to literally physically go to a place to visit her. And losing our interaction was a loss that I had to give up. But I think the other thing that was a thing that I appreciated about my mom was a woman that was also in church. And one of the things that we'd be able to do to make a connection is to have her pray for me.
Mm,
And
Yes.
she was so strong in being able to start the prayer towards the end, but she couldn't finish it, you know.
mhm.
But I always I looked at things that I appreciated with my mom as long as I could have it with her,
There you go.
and that was something that was important for me. So,
Hmm. That's very encouraging, and there's some caregivers that need to hear that. Thank you for sharing.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Dr. B, sort of, how do you tell, what do you tell, what can you tell individuals who, like Deborah Jones, went to the doctor with their mom or dad or loved one to uh, find out this diagnosis that is life changing? And how do we educate ourselves to be our own best advocates, informed and participant in the process of healing and recovery and growth? How do we do that? How do we train our families to be their best advocate for themselves in the doctor's office and everywhere else as well? What do you think?
I think let me give you an example. I think that if you know the parent, and for example, my mother, she she was always meticulous with her looks. She would get her nails done, she would get her hair did, she would do all those things. And when my brother, who ended up caring for her a while, was taking care of her, he was missing all those signs that she wasn't getting her nails done, getting her hair done. As he's a man and he was pretty much single, as long as she had something to eat, it was good enough. And TV, it was good enough. So I think what we have to do as families is help them to make as much normal experience, historical experiences with their parent as they possibly can. What that means for us is we have to be grateful for the moments. the moments that she may remember your name, or she may remember that time when you were pulling the cat by the tail, and she said, or any of those things. Just be grateful and be present, because if you're present, you won't miss all those moments. It's like coming in and you've missed half of a movie, and you don't know what happened before you got there, and you're trying to catch up. But if we realize they may not be able to communicate in the way they used to, there still is communication, whether it be that eyes, or that my mom would do you like this, or she'd take your hand and do this and kiss it. She's was always like that. So I tell people, even the psychiatrists that I work with, I tell them that even though the brain may not work like it used to, there are pockets of awareness. And we see that as the evening goes, they have this experience called sunsetting, where they kind of get disoriented. But as the day goes and the evening goes, just be present. And when I mean present, I don't mean just be there. I mean being emotionally available, cognitively available, spiritually available. Be present. And when we do that, we feel less lost,
Mhm.
because you'll find that your parent is in there somewhere. And
Mhm.
every once in a while, my mom may be sitting there, we're watching TV or something, and she said, "Didn't this remind you of?" And you go, "What? How does she remember that? That was like 20 years ago." And the ability to be present makes it more tolerable. But
Yeah.
every day that you're losing the person as you know her, you have to redefine your relationship, redefine your role as a daughter or son or sister or whoever it is, whoever you are as the caregiver. So I think the biggest piece is to remember that they have a life before they had dementia, they have a life during dementia. And your job, I think, is to make it as beautiful, memorable, honoring, loving, and caring as possible. Because people don't forget that they were cared for. They won't forget that kiss. They won't forget that hand holding. They like my mama, she won't forget that you tried some new perfume on her. She won't forget. And
Mhm.
so those are the ways we hold on. But I do remember one winter when I could see, I would call her, and then we went this whole bout of putting her in a nursing home, as opposed to us keeping her in the home, as she just got less and less able to care for herself. And I remember that winter, I had gone to I think to Lubbock, Texas, where she was, brought her back down. She spent some wonderful time with me, but I could see she wasn't all the person that I nurturing mama that'll buy you a sweater. No, she wasn't like that. She just you couldn't predict.
Mhm.
But when she left, I was so angry. I
Mhm.
remember going to my driveway.
I think you're freezing up, Dr. B. Not hearing you.
Yeah. Can you,
Now go ahead.
can you
Now we're
hear me
back.
now?
Yes,
I
go
was
ahead.
saying I remember going to my driveway in the snow and beating that ice on the ground, just angrily beating it, because I saw that my mom was being robbed from me. I felt like I had been victimized by a thief. And after I understood more and more about what that disorder is, and like Miss Deborah said, more and more, they still have their somewhere in there, they're still there.
Mhm.
And if you just remind yourself not to give up, not and be present for those moments when she peeks out and she calls your nickname from when you were little, or
Mhm.
when she peeks out and she'll say, "Oh, can we go get some ice cream?" Whatever
Mhm.
it is that gives you that joy in that moment, I swear, when they're gone, you don't forget it.
Yeah.
You
I
don't forget it.
remember with my mother, the phrase that I would use is having patience with her process,
Mm-hmm.
and not being upset with who she isn't anymore, but having joy with who she is.
Yeah.
And my mom and I used to go to, I'm from Detroit, so we used to go to Belle Isle when I'd pick her up from the nursing home, and we would go out and we would drive around. Belle Isle is the island in this in the city that Canada on one side and Michigan is on the other. Detroit's on the other side, and we would drive around Belle Isle, which he enjoyed even when I was a little guy. And then we would stop at the Big Boy and give floats.
Mhm.
And those are things that she enjoyed when we were little, and then she enjoyed as she got older.
Yeah.
And then things that she would say or that she would do. The other thing that would change as we got older. So so Sam was a little guy, and so Sam became me.
That's
So
right.
my nickname was Joe. My middle name is Joseph, and so she would call, and the family called me Joe growing up. So she sees Sam and she calls Sam Joe,
Mm-hmm.
and then she called me my dad,
Mm.
and also sometimes she would call me my Uncle Joe, which was
Mm.
her brother, who was next to her age wise, but they were very close. And so things that you appreciated, but things that you would see that she would do uh, that I thought was interesting and fun. You know.
Yeah.
What happens when you have the more difficult challenges?
Mhm.
People with a tendency to get lost, people who have to worry about trying to cook, and the potential for fire. Is there an increased potential for things like falls that can mean physical danger? The kind of person who's experiencing Alzheimer's or dementia become agitated and even dangerous to themselves and to other people. I know that I've heard the term used that people sort of lose their filter when they experience dementia. So, people who are caregiving and in the family sort of look at each other and say, "Oh, that's just how she is right now because of the dementia or the Alzheimer's." But
Mm-hmm.
how do you navigate that, and how do you manage to know what your limits are and where you need help beyond your capability? How do you do that? Deborah, what are your
I'd,
thoughts?
I'd be
Or go ahead, Olive.
I was going to say I'd be interested in what Deborah said, but I know from one of the things that when I talk about the phrase "have patience with her process,"
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
that's recognition about uh, valuing and being patient with the decline.
Yeah.
I think another thing is to talk about it within the family. When my mother would forget things, they would think by rehashing things. Let's say that there was a loss of my siblings, and my mother wanted to know where they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what you would do, what some people would do, is remind them about the loss,
Hmm.
as if that was going to make her remember. So for the first of all, you can't blame her for where she's at.
Hmm.
But the other thing is, you can't assume that by telling her the truth about the loss, that was going to uh, help her be better or remember. So, and that's another thing that she would go through in terms of dealing with that loss for the period of time that she did.
Hmm.
So I had to tell my siblings not to do that.
Hmm.
But I think to talk among ourselves as siblings about the condition that my mom was in was something that was important. And Deborah, I have to ask you this question because I used to be in a gerontological group when I was a professor at the U. It was called MAGIC. It was Minnesota Area Education on Aging. And so I don't know if that still exists because the people that founded it passed away. Um, and they were excellent in their work. Does that still exist? Does Magic still exist?
I'm not sure. I've never heard of them. So
Okay.
I'm not sure of that,
Yeah.
but I can come right alongside you in agreeing with you have to accept a person right where they are
That's
and
right.
learn how to if they're missing someone or if they're stating something that is incorrect, what difference does it make? I had
Exactly.
to
Right.
as well talk to my
That's
brothers
right.
about, my mother would say some things that weren't true, but I'm like, you have to learn how to deflect.
That's
Sitting
right.
here and trying to make her think that something she's saying is true, what's the benefit?
Exactly.
Find a conversation that you could have with her and deflect and bring her mind someplace else.
That's right.
My mother, as I said before, she thought that everybody in that facility did not want her there. Like I said, I didn't dismiss what her said, but I wanted to comfort her so that she could fall asleep at night and have a good
Right.
night's rest
Mhm.
and wouldn't try to be looking over her shoulder all the time. And I know that with the disease that it will leave an impression sometimes of something that they may see that's just not true.
Mhm.
Right.
So you got to help them
That's right.
and your siblings with that. So yeah, that's what I would say. That there is a great loss when you see someone declining in their memory. But I also learned. My mother told me about a brother that she had who passed away from, oh, what was it? It was some disease now that they don't need that they have a cure for now. But she described the suit that my grandmother made for him. She
Mm.
described it in such detail. I was like, wow, she is right there in that moment.
Mhm.
But she had never told me that story before. So I
Mm.
just appreciated hearing some of her past that she would never, she didn't think to talk about before. So,
Right.
yes, meeting a person right where they are and being patient with the process. I just appreciated that um, as I was going through it and being able to help my brothers see and other family members know that sure she's not there, but she is still um, um, uh, deserves love and kindness.
Mhm.
Yes.
Well, I want to get back to the question I raised about when the person is a situation that is dangerous for the person or
Thank
for
you.
the caregivers. So how do we deal with that? So the background and my question is personal as well. I said this before. I don't mind sharing it because I'm looking for feedback. When I was a kid, like maybe 4 or 5 years old, I remember where we lived in Kansas City. It was like my uncle owned the big 3, 4 story brownstone, and grandmother and grandfather and one of their kids, my uncles or aunts, lived with them. And then my family, which was my dad, my mom, my older sister, and me, lived in the kitchenette on the 3rd floor. So it was a multi-unit, multi-generational family living. One of the people on the 2nd floor, on my grandmother's place, was my Aunt Della, and Aunt Della was my grandmother's aunt, I believe, uh, and we just knew that Aunt Della was quote unquote crazy because they kept her under lock and key in that room. And I just remember them bringing her out every now and then, sitting in a rocking chair. She always talked quote unquote gibberish, kind of never made sense. And then uh, I think that she was erratic enough that she required being kept under lock and key. And this is my perception as a 5-year-old. So what about that? and and I guess we would have our private jokes growing up as kids saying somebody was crazy. Crazy might not have been the right word. Maybe there's something else. But what is our culture doing? What have we done? And what must we do in the future so that we are clear, knowledgeable, and we are as responsive as we can and should be, and give love and compassion to those around us, and are not guided by uh, stereotypes and misinformation that's not based in science or reality today. Deborah, what do you think?
Well, that's why I've stressed earlier that it's very important to take somebody into the doctor, because we have that thing in our culture, or they just see not. Well, there's something more than that going on, and it really does take, my honest opinion is to have someone seen by a doctor so that they're not harmful to themselves or somebody else. Some of the things, my mother was in an assisted living apartment, and I saw that her steps were getting shorter, and she had a walker, but when she first moved in, she was able to get around, and she had an area rug. I didn't like it, but I was okay with it because she was able to still maneuver very well. But as I saw that her steps began to get a little shorter, I actually paid for. I got rid of the area rug, and in the living room and the hallway, it was carpet. I got rid of that carpet, and the bedroom, as a matter of fact. Asked them to. I talked to the rental people, and I asked them to go in half with me because I didn't want that carpet in her apartment with a walker, because I saw it as a trip hazard.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And so actually I had as well someone come in and do an assessment, even though this was an assisted living, and they said everything was, easy for them, blah, 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 blah. I wanted somebody else to come in and do another assessment according to my mother and how she could move and to do everything. So I was fortunate enough where we had the finances to do that. Now, there are some families that may not have the finance, and it's something else I wanted to bring up, is families need to prepare financially for their seniors. You still need to have life insurance. I know that long-term care insurance is very expensive now.
Mhm.
And my mother had it. I was ready to throw it away, but I consulted with someone. They said, keep it. And this was a particular type that as soon as I tapped into it, we no longer had to pay premiums. I don't think those are out there like that anymore, but still, talk to somebody about your finances and getting those legal documents in place, because for that aunt who was living in that apartment, it was her apartment.
Mhm.
And I don't know how legal you can go in and do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, you just don't have the capability of doing those things. So you've got to put papers in place that say, I'm going to safeguard, I'm not going to steal, I don't want what you have,
Mm-hmm.
but I need to know that you are safe and no one is taking anything from you, and that we have some papers in place that someone can go in and advocate for you medically, financially, and in every other area of life. Now, there are some people that are very resistant to giving up their keys because that's connected with their identity, their freedom.
Mhm.
And you just have to have those conversations. And those are very individualized because everybody has a different personality. But you got to learn how to go in there and help that person. And sometimes it really does come off better when it comes from a doctor and not from a family member.
Mm-hmm.
You were brought up.
I was going to say, I agree with you 100%. And I think is that because we are family, we can be a little more vigilant to change. When people are changing, we as family members, we can observe that a little quicker.
And my sister and I ended up getting guardianship of my mom. And because it certainly got to a place where there are things that she couldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
And so my sister and I had to be on one accord. Now, not every family member became a guardian.
That's right.
It's basically me and my sister, and we made the decisions, and we even did things where my mom was fearful. She had these problems with her hip, and she was in pain all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister and I made the decision that we were going to have her have the operation.
Mm-hmm.
And one day she was in a lot of pain. She had the operation. The next day she wasn't. And so, and Al, regarding your question, one of the things is when you see that there are people who may be a danger to themselves,
Mhm.
you have to be their support
Yeah.
and have to be aware of how they could be a danger to themselves and find ways to be supportive, including the rest of the family. Things that you have to be aware of as they process or do things.
Yeah.
And I think respond to them that way.
And I
So,
think, let me jump on top of you, what you're saying, Brother Oliver. And
mhm,
I want to say this to make sure that people know. If we look at some T's, the tone for which we engage with our elders who especially have dementia, how to talk to them, the tone, how to that touch is very important.
Yes.
That timing is also very important. Those T's, touch, tone, timing, that helps us to communicate better. Because when we touch them with a loving hand or just smoothly put their hand, then you can get some attention, and the person will know, even if they may not be able to completely decipher what you're seeing or saying, they can hear the tone. They can see that smile on your face. And for my mom, I remember the last time I took her shopping, get some new shoes. She sitting there lovely, and the man came brought her a pair that wasn't her size, and she's a Christian woman. She cussed that man out up there. She said, "What the hell?" Da, 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 da. And everybody started looking, and I was so glad I was there. I said, "Mom, he must have the wrong customer. Let him just see if he can find your size." And she come, "Okay, thank you." But so it takes knowledge of that, and it's really
That's true.
important. It doesn't take a PhD to think
Mhm.
about timing, touch, and tone.
If I could add one thing, and it's don't stand over people, come down to their eye level.
There
So
you
you're
go.
not that authoritarian. Meet
mhm.
them eye to eye, again, with love and kindness, because it goes a long way. And tone. I love that you said that.
Well, Lisa, tell people about the event coming up again next Saturday. Let's invite our viewers. And what we want you to do is share this information, share this show, and share the information across your social media networks, your email contacts. Let people know this is
Mhm.
an important event, and that if this is a concern, and it should be for all of us, you need to be there. It's here for you, Lisa. Unmute, Lisa.
It's very important for the community to understand and learn more about Alzheimer's and dementia and how it can impact us and as individuals and as a community. Again, February 21st, it's a Saturday from 9 to 3 at the North Point Health and Wellness Center across the street from the Urban League and adjacent to URock, right there on Penn and Plymouth. We'll be on the
In
fifth floor.
Minneapolis.
Yeah, Minneapolis. We'll be on the fifth floor in the conference rooms up there, and we'll be hosting a conference about dementia, focusing on dementia and the various challenges, the health aspects of it, the issues that our community faces, and also just being able to congregate and have a conversation afterwards about the issue. I want everyone to know we are accepting walk-ins to the conference, but registration is appreciated because we do have to take account for the food. We'll be serving breakfast and lunch. And Al graciously printed an article about the conference in the newspaper, February 9th issue of the newspaper. And we do ask people to register for the event. And Al posted the link to the registration event in the paper and the article. And you can find information about our event on our Facebook page. And the link is on that Facebook page as well. Also, many of our community neighborhood community associations, Hawthorne Community Association has posted it in their newsletter. Lynn Bohannon Community Association, NERC, Northside Residents Community. I'm sorry, I always forget.
Northside Residents Redevelopment
There we go.
Council.
They have it in their newsletter as well. And then also Powderhorn has listed it in their newsletter. So just an opportunity for people to learn about the this disease and how it's impacting our community.
Lisa, have you reached out to any churches to have them posted in their bulletin?
Yes, I did. I reached out to several churches that are part of the altar program. And I looked at Fellowship Baptist Church, Pilgrim Baptist Church. There's and also a program, Walker West has a choir, and I sent information to them as well. And then our organization will be having some churches participate as well. So yes.
Yeah, and what I'm excited about is on Sundays after church service, we will be doing screenings using the COG-5 to screen for signs of dementia. And what we're calling it, the program is Wings and a Prayer. So you come in, the preacher pray for you, and you get you some chicken wings, and you get screened. That you can't beat that.
They bake chicken wings, right? They baked, right?
It's real big and tasty and free.
Wings and a prayer.
And the wings and a prayer is free, and our conference is free as well. And the breakfast and lunch are free. So this is just an opportunity to try and pull people together to begin talking about this issue.
Lisa, thank you. Deborah Jones, thank you so much for your leadership and for the light that you bring. Dr. B, Dr. Oliver, as always, these are rich and wonderful and necessary conversations. I'm Al McFarland. We'll see you next time.